What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Undesired and Prescribed podcast. I am Brown Sugar, and today, it's probably going to be a little, I don't want to say off topic. Well, okay, it's not as current. It's definitely not off topic because the topic of today is going to be the Mortal Kombat movie, but more specifically, improving it to my own great vision because we all know how amazing my mind is and how elegantly. Basically, I think I could do a better job. Let me first off by saying I thought it was pretty good. Um, Honestly, you can't go into a movie like Mortal Kombat and have like super big expectations. I don't think that's fair. So, I mean, I went in there thinking that this will be a fun movie, just suspend my belief for, like 2 hours and just enjoy it for what it is and just like a violent action movie, which exactly what it was. So right off the bat, for what it was, if I were just to like rate it how much I enjoyed it, I'd probably give it like a 7, like a 7.2. But obviously, if I ranked it like the same as like a movie that go in there like for like a riveting like story, character development, stuff like that, and it'd probably be like a 4 or 5, something like that. But I'm not rating it like that. So I have a separate scale for like movies like this, and like, like I don't know, like Citizen Kane. All right, I wouldn't rate these movies the same. Like they'd probably be similar in score if you just take it for face value, but obviously I'm not holding them to like the same standard and grading them off the same criteria. Anyways, so I like the movie. I like what they did in trying to make their own character. I think that's perfectly fine and actually like good for them for going to do it. A lot of people would use like the argument saying that there's so many characters. Why did you need to go make somebody else who can be the main character? But no, I actually liked it. I liked how they went out and made their own new character, and that's perfectly fine. And he's part of the Hanzo Hisashi bloodline, so or Scorpion for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie or the game series. He's then I do forget that Cole was his main character. So like I said, it wasn't like super like I wasn't like super like immersed with the characters, or I didn't care too much about them in all honesty. But the actress that played Sonya Blade very very attractive. Um, but so one thing that I did not necessarily like about the movie is this is probably my biggest flaw with it is they made Sub-Zero a bad guy. Okay, I get this is a little bit of a review and then like go back through and talk about what I would fix. So this is on the spot, right? By the way, obviously, as you can tell. But so, shut the fuck up. Anyways, for this film, one thing I did not like is they made Sub-Zero a bad guy when in the actual like game series he's not a bad guy. Scorpion isn't a bad guy either. He's like a neutral party. But I obviously in Hollywood it's you don't have like enough time to set up a whole fucking universe because they're not going to make not everything can be an MCU where they take movies to like set everything up. But I will say for those of you who are not familiar but have seen the movie, the reason they kept calling him Bihan is because there's two separate Sub-Zeros, and then the Bihan version of Sub-Zero, that guy is inherently more evil because he goes on to become a much greater villain, and he's not exactly the best of guys, but he never did murder Scorpion and his whole clan. That is fake news. That never happened. So I didn't like that they necessarily did that. And I didn't like that they made him Chinese either because they're like all supposed to be ninjas and ninjas like is Japanese. I could be wrong on that. Like I could be wrong in saying that there's no such thing as Chinese ninjas, but I'm 90% sure on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one that was just like a little nitpick that I had. But they got it right where, Hanzo Hasashi has like a warrior clan and the Lin Kuei is a clan of assassins, but I think they should have made them both Japanese. Like I said, just a little nitpick. But I thought the action in the movie was really good, especially in this opening scene with Hanzo Hasashi going against the Lin Kuei assassins, because him with that gardening hoe, basically what he made like that rope spear out of, that was really awesome. And I did like the violence in this movie a lot. It was so fucking great. So something that I liked, but in hindsight, like I feel like it would hurt more down the line, is their usage of characters. Like they brought in a lot of characters, and I like that because I like seeing I liked seeing Melina. I didn't care for Reiko, but Cabal, Goro, Shang Tsung, all these guys. It's great because you're like that fucking like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme where fucking Leonardo DiCaprio's like pointing at the TV and shit. So it's something like that. So I'm glad that they got a lot of characters involved, but like going forward with like the story, because they definitely set up a sequel, because spoiler alert, they never even had the tournament. It was just them trying to kill like the champions before the tournament. But I didn't necessarily like going back. I wish that they wouldn't included so many characters, because literally every single bad character besides Shang Tsung died. And I don't think that was necessarily a good idea. Mainly because they didn't even get to the tournament, and Kano, he doesn't necessarily play like a big story role, but he's very iconic, and he's in about almost every single Mortal Kombat game. So, and I think the actor that played him did a really good job of it. He was really funny. He tried it. It was way too forced at times, but for the most part, I found his comic relief character really enjoyable, and I did like him a lot. And I would have liked to seen him back, but he got killed, so I don't think he'll be coming back, unfortunately. But who knows? I don't know, because at the end they kind of teased that Shang Tsung was going to like just like resurrect them from the dead, like some shit that Quan Chi would have done in Mortal Kombat 9. But God, I sound like a big fat fucking nerd right now. If you don't know if you don't never played this game franchise before, but there's like also like a lot of like deep story that goes into all of it. But so for me personally, I think one big thing that I would have changed is change the concept of, you know, Shang Tsung like taking like all of his champions and going to, or like members. I don't even know what they were, because I don't know if they were champions or not, because I don't know if they had like the dragon marking or not. But go and like kill the Earthrealm champions before the tournament began. I think it would have just been better if they left it at the tournament, as opposed to like the next movie is supposed to definitely be them like defending the tournament. They're going to add in like a whole bunch of new characters, both good and bad. And I personally would have liked if it was the tournament. I also would have liked there to be Johnny Cage to be in the movie, as opposed to him being teased at the end. And I think the story, from the story standpoint, it probably would have benefited a lot more if the main character was a Johnny Cage or a Liu Kang. But like I said, this is kind of a conundrum, because I like how they went out and made their own character. And Cole's, he's okay. He's honestly like, you could have replaced him with anybody and it would have been fine, like character wise. But that's like one of the challenges, is when you're starting like if you're starting like a new film trilogy or franchise, and people aren't educated on the original source material, there's not going to be a whole lot for them to grasp onto, other than, oh, he's dad trying to protect his wife and kid, but doesn't know how to. Like, that's really about it. There's no character development for him. And like I said, I feel like the film would have really benefited more if like a Johnny Cage was a main character, and having to like him decide between what's right and what's wrong, because they easily could have like, because you saw Kano like just instantly change for like money and stuff like that. We could have seen something like that happen too, with like, I don't know, like this like pose with Johnny Cage, like, you know, where he's like has conflicting morals of helping like Shang Tsung and all of them, but just helping the good, or helping Earthrealm simply because it's the quote right thing to do, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder, and the chances of success are a lot slimmer. And I don't know, because in Mortal Kombat X, they made it like a big deal about Johnny Cage's green glow thing, and also his daughter Cassie Cage. They made that like a really big focal point of the movie. I mean, the game. So they could have done that for the movie as well, in my own personal opinion. So if I'm rewriting this, I would have made Johnny Cage the main character as opposed to like a tease for the end, and have that kind of happen at the tournament at Shang Tsung's island, to where they kind of like retell like the first game, but instead of having Liu Kang be the one to defeat Shang Tsung, they could have had Johnny Cage, since he's going to be the main character, which I think would have been okay. Because Johnny Cage is one of the original characters, and he's in almost every single game as well. Or they could have gotten like a big name, like Chinese actor to do Liu Kang, and he'd be the main character. Okay, we're doing this from my own fucking point of view. Stop. God damn it. Son of a bitch. So Johnny Cage would be the main character. They would actually be in the tournament, and I would have used a lot less like evil characters. Like I would have. I don't mind if they name drop, like get them like included in the universe, but I wouldn't use as many, because Reiko, he was just like a big dumb idiot in that movie, but not in the comic books leading up to Mortal Kombat X, he plays like a really big role in the future of Earthrealm and Outworlds, like coexisting with each other, something called the Reiko Accords. I don't have a whole lot of time to go into that, but I wouldn't have used him at all, and just simply for the fact of, that's something that could possibly go like down the line, because when it comes to Mortal Kombat, they could definitely make a shit ton of movies about them if they just. I'm not saying they have to stick to the original like timeline and script on how everything happened, but even if they just somewhat adopted it, there's so much that they could have done. So I wouldn't have used him. I probably would have saved Melina as well, simply until we got a Katana, because that's fine, Katana not being in the movie. I think it was good that she probably wasn't in there, but I would have saved Melina for Katana. That way there's like a unique like dynamic between the two of them, where it's like one's like the evil clone of Katana, and I think that would have been far more enjoyable from like a storytelling point of view. And I can't tell you how every little detail would come down, but just trust that my imaginary script that I'm writing right now is going to be 10 times better, and the dialogue is 10 times better. Oh, my favorite part about this movie, though, is the fact that Jax is all like, you gotta get to Gary, Indiana! And then they get to Gary, Indiana to meet Sonya Blade, and this bitch is living in a trailer park. Like, that is funny to me. And another thing that I didn't like about the movie, I'm going all over the fucking place right now. I will circle back, but is how unimportant the special forces felt. The special forces in this movie felt like who the fuck cares about them? Like, Sonya Blade literally lived in a fucking trailer park in Gary, Indiana. Like, are you fucking kidding me? She had like a secret like fucking cellar with like shit in there, but I really don't care about that. Like, they should have made the special forces seem more badass than what they were. And oh yes, and this was my thing too about like the so the dragon. So this is different. I don't mind that they were trying something different, but in my own personal fantasy, I wouldn't have done this. So they had like the dragon mark logo, like you've had like hidden powers within, and Jax happens to be like he gets mechanical arms. Like I think that's fucking stupid. I would have loved to see like, the special forces get called in, and they're all like, "Oh, Jax, bro, we got you. Let me fucking just like," and he gets like this like fucking pseudo fucking cybernetic badass special forces made robotic arms. So that's what have happened in mine, because I think the inclusion of Jax in the movie was good. I would have kept Kano. I would have kept him alive. I don't mind that they had Reptile in there, but I probably would have made him an actual character as opposed to some CGI monster. I would have definitely had Kano had like his cybernetic eye just from the get-go. We don't need to see, he has like a fucked up eye, and then his fucking magic dragon powers him having a laser beam eye. I don't think none of that stuff needed to be included, but I applaud them for trying to be original and not just like copy and paste the video game. But so this one would for this movie, Johnny Cage would have been the main good guy, the main protagonist. You see how, because he's a legitimate like a douche and a dickbag in the games, and he can be that way in real life too, especially since he's like a big Hollywood actor. And there's this whole dynamic in the first part of the game where it's like in Mortal Kombat 9 where he's like thinking that this is all like all stunts and acting and shit like that. That could have played an interesting role. I don't, obviously not for super long, because you got like a runtime of like 2 hours, if even that. But so it would have been the first tournament. They would have been fighting, and then he could have fought Goro. Goro could stay in the movie. Villains I would have kept, like I said, Reptile, Shang Tsung for sure, Goro. But they use Goro in a really stupid way, in my opinion. Like, I don't like how he was sent after to kill somebody else. He's literally the champion of Mortal Kombat. He shouldn't be sent out to like go kill anybody. He needs to be like the very last person to fight before you fight Shang Tsung. Like, he needs to be that big sub boss. And I felt like him going after to like go kill somebody and just to like fail just was kind of bad. Now, granted, like, there's not really too much you can do other than like, oh, for like the past like 900 years he's been the Mortal Kombat champion. That's like the most that you can do to build him up, but actually make him feel like a lot more important, because I don't know, sending somebody, like, you're just somebody's errand boy. So at that point, and it would have been dope to have them fight in his throne room, Johnny Cage have to like narrowly defeat him, or they could have even gone like this really cool route of, Liu Kang is destined to beat Goro and Shang Tsung because he's, quote, the chosen one, and he could have gotten killed by Goro, and then Johnny Cage feels like he has to avenge him, and man, everybody's like crumbling and shit because Liu Kang is dead. Johnny Cage is horny for Sonya Blade. Who wouldn't be? God, that actress, she is very attractive. I could not get over that. Anyways, so felt like the weight of the world is on Johnny Cage since all that stuff. I definitely would. You'd have to include Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And I guess like the only way that you could have included them, like the way that they were included in this movie, like being like the bloodline of Hanzo Hasashi, fit in really well. But you even could have done that little rerun of the beginning, but make it like a lot more different. Like, I would have had it play out the way that it played out in Mortal Kombat 9. Because in Mortal Kombat 9, Quan Chi is the one who does, like, in the original timeline and in the new timeline, Quan Chi is the one who kills Scorpion and his clan and family and his wife and kids. So I would have been okay with that, but under the guise of Sub-Zero, and then we get to the tournament, and Scorpion is like a servant of Shang Tsung, gifted to him by Quan Chi of the Netherrealm, and he recognizes Sub-Zero, and he's like, I must kill you. And Sub-Zero's like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? But I definitely would have made Sub-Zero the good guy, and then have Scorpion, quote, a bad guy, but not the bad guy, and obviously like a bad guy for the wrong reasons because he's been misled. And I would have really liked that dynamic. And I would have been even fine with Scorpion killing Sub-Zero. That way we could set up for Noob Saibot in a future movie. So that's some of this, like, to sum it up so far, Johnny Cage, main protagonist, going to the tournament with, they could keep Sonya, Jax, Liu Kang, Kung Lao, they can keep all of them, and then Kung Lao can die, so can Liu Kang to Goro, and then he has to ultimately defeat Goro and then faces Shang Tsung, where Shang Tsung is defeated. I think a really good element of the movie should have been that Shang Tsung is very old. So this is what I would have been okay with. I like the actor that played Shang Tsung, but they could have definitely got Cary Tagawa to play Shang Tsung because he's very old now, and he could have been old in the movie too. And then because Shang Tsung is old in the first game, but in the next couple of games he's revitalized because Shao Kahn has granted him. But that's just like some dream casting. But no, we could have kept him, done like the old CGI shit on him, or just made him look older. And then, but he's like a lot harder. And then Johnny Cage is like on his very last leg until like the mysterious green goo comes alive in him, and he has to be like boom, 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 and like nut punch and shit like that. Ultimately defeating Shang Tsung and saving Earthrealm from invasion from Outworld, or Outworld merging with Earthrealm. So I probably would have kept it very similar to how it happened in the games, only make Johnny Cage like the main hero. And I'm not even a super big Johnny Cage fan. I just feel like from a movie standpoint, he'd be a lot better hero, and it'd be a lot easier for like everybody to like enjoy that way, because he's an asshole, but he's a funny asshole at that, and he's a good caring asshole. And just have him win, and then they easily could have set up for like other movies and stuff like that, and they could tease like Scorpion like finding out what happened, and then no, we would tease this in the Jared cut of Mortal Kombat, to where Scorpion decides he's going to team up with Sub-Zero because he figures out what actually happened. And they don't even have to have Quan Chi part of this. They could just figure out like, oh, Shang Tsung actually did it this whole time, and then he's all like, oh, I'll kill him. But that's probably like a rough idea of what I would do to change. I know this episode was kind of all over the place, but I kind of just wanted to get my thoughts out there on this movie, because I think it was a good movie for what it was. Take it for what it was, like a cheesy action gory movie with very subpar storytelling. But that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you just gotta suspend your belief from time to time when you go to the movies, and then just enjoy it for what it is. So I do hope all of you enjoyed my nonsensical rambling about this movie, and I hope that you guys see this movie. I hope I didn't spoil too much for you if you hadn't seen it, but I think it's worth a watch just because the gore in it is good, and it's like at the most random of times, and it's really funny. It's really funny at times too when it comes to the gore. And yeah, if you're a fan of the game, I think it's worth a watch just because you can be all like, yeah. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next UP. So until then, guys, take care.